downtown. And then let you all deal with your exam. I won't go into a lecture, since I'm sure everybody's got exam on their mind. I prefer to get that taken care of. So for those of you that are here, if you will, and at the downtown campus, if you go to WebCT, you'll notice on the little bar on the left, I forget what they call it, and also if you click on the PowerPoint presentation icon, it'll be listed there. There's the same as we had for Exam 2. There's a Microsoft Word document with that you can print out, and it has the selections for questions 1 to 23. As well, the PowerPoint slide presentation is available there. And what we'll be doing today is we'll be recording the presentation of that slide set with the stated questions. Most of them are already clear from the words on the slide, and I'll get the others worked in today. So, if you want, you can open that file if you don't want to wait for the printer to become available. Can they save locally here, do you know?
I don't know.
You might be able to save it to the desktop here.
Not to the desktop. I think you have to save under My Documents.
Under My Documents? Okay.
The desktop.
And you might be able to save it to My Documents, and then you can just highlight and bold what you think would be your selection. So if you want to have it interactive for you right now and not have to wait for the printer. But I'll leave that for you. So again, it's the same model. You can print out the paper selection or have it active on the computer and just highlight or record your choice before you activate the exam on WebCT. Someone had sent me an email about that for Exam 2. And it kind of cost them some time and everything, so be sure you arrange it that way. So don't start WebCT Exam 3 until after you've viewed this slide set. I'm speaking now to anybody that's clicked and is watching this streaming video sometime. And after you've temporarily recorded your responses, then start your exam on WebCT and put in those responses and save them for questions 1 to 23, then complete answering the 24 through 50. So I will open this file now. And we will begin. So this is the slide set for Human Embryology Exam 3. Question number 1 from slide 1. You can see the arrow is pointing to these little pinkish structures that are broken and cross through this portion of this structure seen in cross-section. Identify the tissue primordium for that. And the same question is asked for this type of tissue here. On each side, we see this one is split, but we see a full one on this side here. So the tissue primordium. Please note as we're going through here, I might ask tissue primordium, the stage just before, or the germ cell layer. So there can be a difference there, so keep that in mind. Question number 3 from slide 2. Question number 3, you see these structures down in here. They're cut in cross-section, the lumen, and they have an epithelium. Identify the germ cell layer of origin of that epithelial lining. Question number 4. We see a structure here that's lined by very flattened cells, and then there's other cells scattered around it underneath this surface layer. So all of these structures out here, so not the surface cells and not the ones I just asked you, but all this other stuff out here, identify the germ cell layer of origin. Slide number 3, question 5. Identify the period within which you see this developing lung tissue. Slide number 4. Again, the same question. Developing lung tissue, identify the period where you would see these structures appearing. Slide number 5, question 17. We see this structure that is dividing and going in 2 directions. We see several lines coming in to label structures on here. This particular line comes in and ends right at this area here. Identify this structure. We just see it cut in section here, but it would be a circular structure, as we know. So identify this portion of the respiratory system. Slide number 6, question number 8 and 9 come from this slide. Note that there is an esophageal atresia and the trachea with the fistula into the distal esophagus. So question number 8 is shown here. What condition accompanies this abnormality? What condition accompanies this abnormality? Question number 9 from the same slide is a true or false question. In this condition, the esophageal atresia, gastric distension occurs. True or false? Slide number 7. Question number 10. First, of course, we see 2 different panels on this screen. They are from the same organ. What is the organ represented in this histological cross-section, or these 2 panels of histological cross-sections? The upper left panel, see several cells in this area here. In the lower right panel, we see them again coming down to where they stop and meet underlying tissue. Just these cells all the way up. What is the germ cell of origin of this cell layer? And then for this organ, as you have identified it, what is the innervation? What is the innervation? is slide number 8 for questions 13 and 14. Question number 13. We see on this edge of the stomach, there is a structure that is attached. It, of course, has been cut. We see the cut edge of that structure. Identify this structure that is just hanging there. Identify that structure, question 13. And then question 14, we see another structure, similar structure attached along the complete edge of the opposite side or surface of the stomach. And then it is cut from its other attachment up here. So identify this whole structure. What is the term for this whole structure right here? Then we go to slide 9 for question number 15. And this is the question. Identify the mesenteric structure at the tip of the arrow. So the tip of the arrow is over on this portion of the structure here. You see a cut margin there, and then its final attachment to the stomach, similar to what we saw on the previous slide. So identify the mesenteric structure at the tip of the arrow. And I will be emphatic and say, be specific. Slide number 10 is for questions 16 and 17. Question number 16. We see a green-colored structure down here along one of the corners of this structure from the kidney. So this green structure down here is lined on the inside by an epithelium. What is the germ cell layer of origin of the epithelial lining of this structure? Obviously, it's the bile duct jewel. Question number 17. We see this structure at the very center, obviously central vein of this lobule. Identify the germ cell layer of origin for this structure. Slide number 11 is for question 18. We see an arrow coming in and ending on a very specific structure. It is a mesenteric structure. Identify that mesenteric structure at the tip of the arrow. We note that it is basically including all of this structure here. Slide number 12 is for question 19. In this slide, we see the the cross-section we just looked at, another level, and another level. And we identify the neural tube, so this is dorsal and this is ventral, where we see the umbilical, a little bit of the umbilical cord here. So these dorsally placed structures in this level, labeled E7, are for question 19. And this is a true-false question. This is the kidney. True or false? Slide number 13 is for question 20. We orient again. Neural tube is placed dorsally, so we know this is ventral location. We see a structure here protruding from the ventral aspect of the embryo. And we see this structure contained within that protrusion. Identify this structure within the umbilical cord. Slide number 14 actually comes from this area in box labeled F2. So we'll have a higher magnification of that area. Slide number 14 is for question number 21. And we can see a structure developing out here, and a structure developing here, and something apparently connecting the two of these. So at the tip of the red arrow, we see this structure that has a lumen. Question number 21 is, of course, identify the structure at the tip of the red arrow. Slide number 15 is for question 22. So first we orient to the pubic bone developing here, which is obviously anterior. We see the bladder labeled here, and the rectum labeled posteriorly here. Then we see this collection of tissue, not necessarily the structures contained within it, but this tissue here in between. You may even just want to think of it as being only right in this area, but just basically, what came into this area to separate this from this? So what moved into this area? Or in other words, what created the separation here of the bladder from the rectum? And then finally, slide 16 for question 23. We see the entire length of the colon ending at the rectum, and the rectoanal junction is shown in higher magnification in the circle off to the right. We see the entire anal canal is present here, and this line is pointing to the anus, identify the germ cell layer of origin of the epithelial lining of the anus. And that, of course, is the end of our slides for exam 3. Such a horrible comedian. And that ends our show. Just going to go inform them to stop taking it.
Yeah, I canceled everything that was on the printer, so we sent something pretty good. I don't know, for some reason it just locked up.